Last year, I set myself a challenge to pick up the 20 most wanted games for my collection. It was the 20 in 2022 challenge, and today we are looking back and seeing how many of those 20 games I managed to pick up. But that is not all. Today I'm going to be unveiling my brand new challenge for 2023, and trust me, it is a big one.
Game Pickups! Building the game room! Run tricks! Live game hunting!
Hello again folks, and welcome back to a very special episode, and this time we'll be finding out how well I did in my challenge to pick up my 20 most wanted video games in 2022. But that is not all. I will be unveiling my challenge for this year, 2023, and trust me, this is a big one, and I'm going to need all of you to help me. Just before we jump into the video, I want to remind you folks, if you enjoy this kind of content, to hit that like button and subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week like this video, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, let's see how I did in my challenge. If you haven't been watching the channel for a while, or you missed the 20 in 2022 games challenge, it is fairly simple. Last year I wanted to pick up the 20 most wanted games I wanted for my collection. There was only one rule: no eBay. I had to find them out in the wild, be that in CX, video game stores, car boots or Facebook Marketplace. They needed to be in decent condition and complete. And also, the idea was to try and beat the CX price and see if I could complete the 20 in 22 collection. The first game on the list, as they are all alphabetical, was Cannon Fodder. And the thing is, this was a game that took me the longest time to find, but I did eventually find it in CX. And here it is. As you can see, it is in really, really nice condition. And also, more importantly, this one is complete. Now, with this one, the price did actually go down over the year. When I started at the start of the year building this list, this game was £20. When I picked up in CX, it was £15. You're going to see a couple of price fluctuations like this throughout the video, and they're actually quite interesting to see. Deadly Premonition is a cult classic which I just presumed was going to go up in value over the year. I wanted to add it to my collection before it got more expensive, but contrary to my belief, it actually went down in value, and when I found it in CX, it was just £8. Now, this is not the original box for this game. The advantage of it being on the Xbox 360, I had plenty of spare cases. The one in the shop was pretty rough, but you can see here, this one is in really nice condition. I'm actually surprised this one dropped £4 in over half a year. This next game was a Facebook Marketplace pickup, and here is a good tip. I managed to get a very good price on this game because I bought it as part of a bundle. And this is another one which has gone up in value a little bit in CX, but it's only by £2. It is Dino Crisis 2, one of my very, very favourite games on the PlayStation 1. And this one is fully complete, in very, very nice condition. And these are the kind of games I think are going to get more expensive, and this was the reason I added it to my 20 and 22 list. Next up, we have our first Gamecube game on the list, and this was actually the very first game that I found in the year 2022 for my 20 and 22 games collection. It is Eternal Darkness on the Nintendo Gamecube, and I actually picked this up right here in Norwich at Last Level Games, and I got this for £20. Over a year, this game has gone up to £30 in CX. That is half the price again. These are definitely the kind of games it is good to pick up now. Again, this one is in fantastic condition, absolutely complete, and it just goes to show the price on some of these retro games is only going to go up. Next up, sadly, we have our first fail of my gaming challenge. I could not find a copy of Jurassic Park on the Master System for love nor money. I found a few copies, but they were haggard. One of the covers was literally mouldy, it had no instructions, and I did leave it behind. It is a real shame, as this is one of the biggest games from my childhood, one of the very first games I owned on the Master System, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for it in 2023. Sadly, we are going from one fail to another fail. Another game I could not manage to find last year was Killer 7 for the Gamecube, and this is a real shame, as this one, the price in CX has gone up by £12. But worry not, there are copies in CX stores, and I'm sure in countless game stores around the UK, and trust me, I'm going to find it this year. Next up, we have one of the biggest exclusives to the N64, The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. And this was one of the biggest, most expensive games on my list. And the thing is, this was the first time that I went into CX and found a game which wasn't on the shelves. This was the first time that I realised they did not always put their games out on the shelf. I asked, and they had this lovely copy of the game. It is boxed and complete in an absolutely beautiful condition. And strangely, the price of this game has not gone up over the course of a year. It's still £80. But here is the thing. Boxed and complete retro games are only going to get harder and harder to find as more and more of these make their way into the hands of collectors like myself. Next up, we have the most modern game on this list. It is for the Nintendo Switch and it is Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And there is a very good reason for this. Obviously, with Disney buying the rights to everything Marvel, games like this will slowly disappear due to licensing laws, and that is why I always collect physical. And trust me, if you're a Marvel fan, you do not want to miss out on this game. Now, I actually thought this one would be quite easy to find, but it was quite difficult because they're no longer printing it and there was a limited number of copies available in the wild. But it did actually go down in price, and I did find it in CX for just £40. And this was the first time I visited what is possibly my favourite CX of all time in Kings Lynn, which is pretty close to where I live. And this is not the only game on this list I got from that store. Metal Gear Solid was perhaps the biggest PlayStation 1 classic game that I had missing from my collection, and I had to find it, but I wanted it fully complete and I wanted the Silent Hill demo to be in the game. I had so many fails for this, with instructions missing, broken cases, the demo disc missing, but finally at OLL 22 I managed to find this amazing copy at Last Level Games' stand, and this thing is absolutely beautiful. I have to be very, very careful with it, and it does have the Silent Hill demo. This one was one of the hardest games to find just to get it in this kind of condition, and this thing is in, just trust me, absolutely beautiful condition. This next game is a weird one because in a way it is a fail. Perfect Dark for the N64 was one of my favourite games on the N64, and I wanted to get a boxed and complete version. At the time of setting my list, the price for this game in CX was £28. Now it is down to £20, but the thing is, when you get a game from CX, unless you see it in person, you have no idea what condition this game is going to be in. But this game taught me a very valuable lesson. It is worth going to gaming conventions because you can pick up some amazing stuff. So the first time I ever went to a gaming convention was last year at OLL 22, right here in Norwich. And I managed to pick up this absolutely beautiful copy of Perfect Dark. And this thing is like absolutely pristine. It is fully complete and it is in amazing condition. Now, at the time I paid £30 for this game, which was £2 more than the aim price for the challenge, but for £2 more, this thing is in absolutely amazing condition. As I said, this is the 20 in 2022 video games collection, and I managed to find this game on Facebook Marketplace local to me on New Year's Eve. Literally with hours to go, I managed to find this copy of Ren and Stimpy for the Mega Drive. The case is a little bit rough, it has got a pre-owned sticker on it, but it is fully complete and the manual is in really nice condition. But talk about picking up a game for the collection last minute. With literally hours to go, I managed to turn what could have been a fail into a prevail. The other crazy thing about that Ren and Stimpy game last year is that it doubled in price. At the start of the year, that game was £10 on CX, by the end it was £20. So if you didn't see quick enough, in that Facebook conversation, I was offered Ren and Stimpy for £15 or to bundle with another game for £20. I picked this game, Bloodshot, just from the name and the cover art. I knew nothing about this game. Sadly, it is not complete. He did explain to me the game wasn't complete, but I managed to get both of those games for £20. The CX price for both of these games would have been £50. It just goes to show you can still get some amazing deals on Facebook Marketplace. This next game is a game which I think is only going to increase in price over the next few months, especially as this game is getting a remake. It is of course Resident Evil 4, and I was after the Gamecube version, which until this re-release comes out is probably going to be the best way to play this game. And in all of the places I visited last year, I found this in my local CX store. It was £12. It is of course boxed and complete, and more importantly the case is in good condition, so you have this hinge where you have both discs. This game has already gone up £6 to £18, and I feel in the next few months or even years this is going to get much more expensive. Next up we have another fail, as unfortunately this is a game I've never seen since renting it from Blockbuster about 30 years ago. This game is called Segea. I may be pronouncing that wrong. I never ever see this game. I think it's just one of those obscure Master System games that probably there was not many copies made, but this is definitely one that I just have fond childhood memories of just going into Blockbuster and just picking this up on the artwork alone, and it is one I really want to add to the collection in 2023. Next up we have what is quite possibly the hardest game that I had to find on this list. Not because I don't see it all the time, but it was trying to get a good deal on this game. Eventually I found a copy in good condition and complete in CX, and I built up some trading to buy this game as it was expensive then. It is Silent Hill on the PlayStation 1. This is of course fully complete with all the inserts, all of the little mailaways, even the Konami guide to 99, even the Silent Hill product catalogue. This thing was super hard to find. But what is even crazier, this game in the space of a year has gone up £20 in value. And that is worrying me for many reasons. Obviously the price of a lot of retro games are going up, but it's also going to make my next challenge for this year even harder. This next game is a fairly common game, but again, it was one of the very first games that I ever played, and it was just missing from my collection. And again, I managed to find this at OLL 22, again from Last Level Games, and even better, they let me put together 2 copies so I could make the best singular copy. It is Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Master System, one of the very first console games I ever owned, as it was built into my original Master System. This thing is in really nice condition. It has the manual, it has the Master System catalogue, so thanks to your Last Level Games and thanks to OOL, I was able to add this one really nice condition into the collection. This next game made me so happy when I finally found it. This was a game that I didn't even know existed until recently. I thought that the final Star Fox game was on the N64. I never knew it had a sequel on the Gamecube. And you can tell by my face, when I saw this game in CX, I had to pick it up. It's just not a very common Gamecube game, and it gave me a lot of joy getting to play this after so many years. Unfortunately, it might not be as good as the last Star Fox game we had on the N64, but it's still one of the best Star Fox games of all time. And, you know, let's just forget about the game on the Wii U. Next up, unfortunately, here we have 2 fails in a row, and the first of these just blows my mind. I cannot believe in the whole of 2022 I could not find a decent condition, complete black label copy of Tekken 3. It is one of the most common games on the PlayStation 1, and it blows my mind that I never came across a copy. Slightly less of a surprise is that I never found a copy of Wayne Gretzky Ice Hockey for the N64. I wanted a boxed and complete version, as this was one of the very first games released for the N64 in the UK, and I wanted a complete box launch title collection. I'm very sure I can find a copy of Tekken 3 this year, but I think it's going to be slightly harder to find Wayne Gretzky. But coming off 2 fails, we are ending on 2 highs. WWF Raw and WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. I managed to pick up both of these games in that same bundle I picked up Dino Crisis 2 and a lot of other games. And these for me are games I had no connection with. I never played these back in the day, but this is the joy of collecting retro games. You find new games to become your new favourites. These are both wrestling games I'd never played before, and now they are firmly some of my favourite wrestling games of all time. So there we have it. That is how I did in my 20 in 2022 game challenge. 15 games out of 20 have been added to the collection, which isn't too bad. It was a fun journey, but I wish I got the last few. Spoiler alert, this year I have picked a few of those games up. You'll have to stay tuned to the channel to see what games they are. But now, it's time for the big unveil. What my challenge is for 2023? The clue is behind me and has been staring you in the face all along. It's to do with the PlayStation. Here we go then, folks. My big gaming challenge for 2023 is the complete PlayStation 1 UK release of Platinum games. Over 100 games is what I plan to add into my collection this year, and I'm going to need a lot of help from you folks. But don't worry, I've got myself a little bit of a running start. So far over the years, I've collected 34 Platinum games. These have never been games I've gone out of my way to collect, but I've already added some pretty good titles into my collection, such as the Spider-Man games, the Spyro games, 2 Final Fantasy games, but trust me, there's a long way to go and I'm going to need a lot of help. One of the ways I'm hoping to make this journey a lot easier is by working with you folk in the retro gaming community. The collectors, the stores, the YouTubers. One of the ways I've started to build this collection is swapping. So I always have things in my pile that I'm willing to trade, and if you have Platinum games you no longer want for your collection, let's make a deal. If you have Platinum games you want to get rid of, reach out to me. If they're not welcome in your collection, they're more than welcome in mine, and I'm sure we can make a deal, be it a trade or a monetary value. I am really excited for the year ahead, getting on the road and searching out these Platinum games. I'm going to be getting out there a lot more this year. I'm going to be going to games conventions, game stores all around the UK, loads more CX stores, loads more car boots. Trust me, you're going to see me around the UK a lot more this year. So there we have it then, folks. That is my plan for 2023. The complete PAL Platinum Games releases for the PlayStation 1. It is going to be a hell of a ride, and I really want to take you folks along with me. I'm going to be hitting up game stores, car boots, games conventions, and hopefully do some deals with some of you viewers and fellow YouTubers. If you enjoyed this video, hit a like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.